Hello, welcome to the 13th episode of the strategy game Warring Factions. To start off, I'm just showing you how Thunderdome's developed after putting down some basic facilities. This kind of reminds me of a lot of places I know in first world countries, actually. I know of. I put back all of the bastards in the colonies and now they're being put into line by the police with drones and tasers and attack dogs, so everything's running smoothly. But at the end of the day, I've got up my sensor net and I'm going to extend it, but for now I've picked a surveyor, and it's detected one surveyor and one probe. So I've got a ship I'm going to build later and attack it so that it can't spy on us and where our ships are going. I choose the Star Chaser design after checking out some of the other options. Yeah, you're going to see them all, but that's just part of making a video. You've got to see the real ones we're using, otherwise this video would be useless. We'll change them to account for that, and that's how the game will grow. So I'm sure Pick would share his information with anybody that asked him anyway, because these are all his designs. And I learnt all that I know about them off of him as well, so that it comes down to a format of logic. Which ships you're going to use, etc. So I can grab the resources I need from the trade station. And because labour is quite cheap on this world, and now that there is a lot of educated people, the labour is pretty cheap, so the extra wage total increases by almost nothing. And after this ship is built, it will be fleeted by the same colony and then be sent after that surveyor. I can just hear a jet up there in the atmosphere, which makes me feel comfortable, which has been going on during the pandemic. I haven't heard passenger aircraft, but I've been hearing a lot of high altitude military aircraft. So yeah, I feel safe in wherever I'm living. I'm typing here on the screen just to remind myself to tell you that Thunderdome has the same growth as one of the other colonies that's set as a paradise. It is quite a funny quirk, but it has 20,000 people versus 460,000 because of the lack of wealth. And now that the Corvette's finished, which is a very, very fast one, and its speed is no secret, and our adversaries have ships of much the same speed, so it's a pretty equal fight. And that means that any ships that leave the solar system likely won't make it back if the enemy decides that they won't, because it can't outrun their fastest ships. And even our fastest ships, being weak as they are, can still have skirmishes with other groups of the fastest ships. So anything you try to get an upper hand on in this sort of war, there is a counter to it, and it escalates into like the strangest proportions you can imagine. See, I'm just testing out here if I can put an auto nammer in it, but it didn't work. Anyway, the kamikaze option is pretty much what you will always be using, and just attacking enemies, because there could be neutral ships in the system. Once it leaves the system, there's no harm in adding those to it, because then there won't be any new type players around that you could accidentally attack. Now I've found this surveyor again that I have clicked on those coordinates on the right hand side and chosen this fleet and launched it on an assault mission. And in the next video I'll show you the results. You can see the trajectory here in red, and I think that was going to take approximately 3.5 real hours for it to transfer that distance. And if it, at any time that probe detects it coming towards it, it can move out of the way. Well, that's surveyor. So that's why to attack them you just use the fastest ships, because it gives them the least probable chance of detecting that their $3 million surveyor is about to get turned into space dust. And they keep making them and keep sending them, and you keep destroying them, and vice versa. That's what you call skirmishing. But the alternate of that are attacks and defending, which is when you move large amounts of ships forward to take a whole system. Everything else is skirmishing, in my opinion, which includes fighting in the void. Like if you're in a large galaxy, Pick has specialised in this in prior rounds, I'm told, where you can set up refueling stations in the void and have defence fleets set up to stop people before they get even near the solar system. And it's a different type of warfare, but it limits people's opportunities to attack you if you show that you're willing to cross the length of galaxy, the length between galaxies, not just using wormholes in order to attack you, which happens. And the ships go on long journeys. Recently in the battle logs, one guy is the main guy who's got the biggest colony score. I think Farsight. Don't think I've actually played a game with him unless he's got a new account. But his fleet was intercepted coming across the void and got completely destroyed, because when you know how big the fleet is, you know how to build a fleet that can quietly snuff it out in one salvo, in other words, and then you can refund those ships you built for that one mission or split them up into more AI units or anti-intelligence units, which is what I used to hyphenate those with AI, but it has so many interpretations, it's just, yeah. One thing I did as a counter-intel move was I named all my fleets with the scientific names for spiders, until one guy messaged me begging to stop because they couldn't track my fleets, because they were like, what the fuck? Just Google scientific names for spiders and you'll know what I mean. And you can do that sort of thing, but it's pretty bastard wire sort of move. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's like wire that's close, just loosely on the ground, so you'll never be able to see it, but when you hit it, it's like a clothesline, getting hit in the neck with a clothesline. So yeah, they weren't able to track my fleets. Here, what I'm doing in the game is I've copied the coordinates to one of my surveyors to find out how far away it is from the home world, so I can get the actual distance. and so once I put my homeworld's coordinates in, or either one first, it doesn't really matter. So I've added the fleet coordinates first of one that has just been fleeted up by the homeworld, and then now I'm selecting the coordinates from a fleet that has been deployed and doing a math trick. You can just put that in the raw update format thing too. But so I see the distance in kilometers. If I divide it by 4,000, I get how many points I move it on the grid scaled coordinate map. Which, by the way, the Warring Factions universe I've calculated to be 1,000 times disproportionately smaller than the real universe in terms of the distance it takes to travel the distances and their scale to each other, which I thought would have been a probable number you would use if you were calculating the scale of the game. I did that by calculating some distance to Jupiter, and at the speed 13.3 kilometers a second, which I might show some other time. But anyway, the math doesn't matter, it's just fun. But looking at huge lists of numbers and then picking out single ones is another skill that you can learn to play this game better, because you'll always encounter that and make mistakes when you're typing in lines of huge numbers and have to correct it. So if any young people probably watch these videos and like them, they might probably consider doing like a career in accounting or something, or administration, because it takes this sort of dedication and concentration to do those sorts of jobs. Whereas when you get distracted, you make mistakes. So this way you can be in a quiet environment. Even though I like throwing myself into like loud, obnoxious things, I'm not suited to be in an office. But when I do, it's relaxing. But same thing, if you learn how to build drones, then you also learn how to fly them, and you also learn how to get bored with flying them, because you learn how expensive it is to fly them, even though you learn about drones. So it takes the fun out of it. The more you investigate it, you'll realise. But anyway, there's pretty much a lot of investigating you can do into Warring Factions. You won't ever find the answer. What is the most efficient way to do anything is all up for debate. But one thing's for sure, galaxies are generated like disks, except for Alpha Galaxy. Or some others are in balls. So I'm leaving you with this meme, because girl power as well. Cheers.